To Ninja Monkey. Today, I thought I'd do a little bit of a live stream. I've never really done a proper live stream where I'm just like talking like I am now. I hope that you can all hear me. But I thought I'd talk about like what it's like to travel around Japan, like the least traveled, the least visited areas, because I think that everybody kind of like travels to Tokyo, to Kyoto, that kind of thing, Nara, but they don't tend to travel to some of the more off the beaten path type places. So I thought I'd just like kind of talk about my experience like traveling around. Firstly, I have to say that I love Tokyo and Kyoto and all those places, all those different areas. But you know, once you've kind of done those places, Japan is just full of so many really cool, really interesting, really beautiful places that you should try and visit if you can. You'll be blown away, especially I think when you start visiting places where there might not be so many tourists, then I guess the service is better in a way or more authentic. I don't know. But anyway, if you're joining the live thing now and maybe this is already finished, then you might be interested in continuing to listen to what I have to say. Actually, I want to check to see if it's live, like on YouTube, and if I can hear myself because I'm not very sure. So I'm just checking on my iPad right now, and let's see. Can I hear myself? I think there's going to be like an epic delay. So I'm just checking on my iPad right now. That's not too bad. All right, so there's a little bit of a delay. So yeah, this year I traveled through Shikoku, and I was blown away. I really love Shikoku. Has ended up being a pretty cool, really nice place to visit. And actually, I've been uploading videos very slowly about my experience in Shikoku. So, for example, I don't know, like if I can just pop up my YouTube channel here, and you can actually see some of the videos that I've sort of been looking at. And one of the ones, or my latest one, is Kotohira-gu. And Kotohira-gu was pretty cool. Basically, let me just take off the subtitles. Basically, it's a shrine in Kotohira, and it's up, I don't know, like 700 steps or 1,000 steps, I can't remember. Hey, if you're joining me now, welcome. And I'm just going through some of my videos that I've done. And basically, Kotohira-gu is sort of like a shrine. It's supposed to be like one of the most popular shrines in Shikoku, but to be honest, when I went, there weren't that many people. Maybe it was because it was like 4:30 or 4 p.m. and so it was like later on in the afternoon, but there weren't that many people, surprisingly. But I really like that shrine. It was quite an adventure, quite cool to walk around and see the shrine itself. So, I mean, I think I did quite a good job with the video. I'm quite happy, but yeah, I'm glad. You know, there were some vending machines, and I'm really glad because Japan gets really hot very quickly. So it means that having vending machines like close by, it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, totally. So Kotohira was like, as you can see here, was like tons and tons, loads and loads of oops, I don't want to go full screen. Loads and loads of different sort of steps to the top, but along the way there were like little like cemeteries and tiny like off the path shrines, shaded areas, and as you can see, apart from me there having a drink, there's not many people around. I mean, I was really surprised. I think that's one of the things that I realized with Kotohira and Shikoku in general, is that perhaps there aren't as many tourists, there aren't as many travelers around, which meant that I felt like I was actually able to I don't know, just like relax a little bit more. You know, sometimes you're kind of like in a place which is really really touristy, and it's just too many people. In Kyoto last year or the year before, I was in Kyoto Matsuri, and it was just ridiculous the amount of people. Hey, if you're joining me now, welcome. I'm talking about basically traveling around Japan, some of the less visited areas. I've just come back from Japan. I visited Shikoku, which is an island off Japan, one of the main islands, and I'm just going through some of my experiences. And if you have any questions, then obviously say something, because I like to know what you think. But yeah, Shikoku was really really cool. I actually started off in Tokushima, and I was really really lucky because in Tokushima I ended up. Let me see. I can put it up here. I ended up staying with a friend or visiting a friend, and my friend basically, where are we? Sorry, if you can see, I can put it here. I'm looking through my YouTube channel and I'm trying to find that video, which I can't seem to find. Videos. All my upload videos. Where are you? Here. So this video here, right? I actually went to a little fishing village, and there, like literally, there was no one there, no tourists whatsoever. It was literally me and the fisherman and my friend. And you know, I think that sometimes when you go to like a crazy matsuri, like Kyoto Matsuri or a Matsuri in Osaka or something like that, it's just so many people that you don't have the time to actually like sort of take a breath and realize what's going on around you, let alone actually participate. So in this case, they were like asking me to take part. So you can see me there taking part, carrying the omikoshi, which was ridiculously heavy. I don't know how much an omikoshi weighs, but it was really hot, and they kept on pouring water, or more like throwing water at me. If I can find, you could see some of the kids or some people throwing water, which was right. You can see there, crazy, but it was so nice, so nice to have the people, like throwing water at me. And I just want to I'm keep on checking on my iPad, to see whether or not things are going okay. Because I've never done a live stream before properly like this, and I'm using like some new. I think it's gonna be like an epic delay. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, so basically, Shikoku has blown me away. I want to go back to so many places in Japan. Even though I've visited them, I don't think it really matters. After that Tokushima experience, which was really really local, I made my way to Kochi or Koshi. I'm not very sure how you say it. And Koshi or Kochi, I went to, where is it? Here. It was pretty cool because I go back. I went to a castle, to Koshi Castle, and Koshi Castle was really, really, really cool because usually I love Japanese castles. I mean, they're really interesting and that sort of thing. But I find that sometimes, sometimes I think that that basically castles can be like really crowded and a little bit fake. Like sometimes when you go to a Japanese castle, you end up having like all these health and safety things, rubber, and like you need to follow a certain path and that kind of thing. But in this castle in Koshi, where I went to, it was like it was tiny. It was a really 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 small castle, which meant that there, even though there were some tourists, it wasn't like as packed as other places that I'd been to, and it also meant that you could actually go outside. If you've ever been to a Japanese castle, you know that when you get to the top, there's like loads and loads of steps, like crazy amount of steps. I'll show you, like loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of steps. But then when you get to the top, you can't really go outside, unfortunately, because usually it's like fenced off, or there's like sort of like a net or something like that. It doesn't allow, you can't even take photos. It's really difficult to take a photo because there's this like fencing around the outside at the top. But in this case, in Koshi Castle, you could actually walk all the way around, and I'm actually outside there right now, which is pretty cool. And I really like that. I really like that aspect. It made me feel as if the castle itself was sort of just more personal, you know. I don't know. It was really, really cool. But I love Japanese castles. So after Koshi, I made my way to Kotohira, and Kotohira was a really nice shrine. Well, Kotohira itself isn't a shrine, but Kotohira, it's actually my latest video there, is a really famous shrine in Shikoku. And if you haven't seen the video, then please check it out and do, you know, the liking and all that. But Kotohira is really, really nice. It's quite quiet. There's nothing there. I actually did a live stream whilst I was walking, trying to find some food, but there's literally nothing there other than a shrine, a river, and a few like hotels, that kind of thing. So I was really surprised. Anyway, so I woke up in the afternoon. I did the whole shrine thing. I really wanted to fly the drone, but there were like signs, actual signs, like no drone flying. So I decided not to fly the drone, you know, because I like to be respectful and all that. But yeah, I mean, after Kotohira, where did I go? I've gone to Matsuyama, and I haven't been to Matsuyama yet. Sorry, I haven't done the video of Matsuyama yet. I have been, obviously, but I haven't actually made the video of Matsuyama. So let's see, Matsuyama. I think you will like that video. Matsuyama, again, was really, really cool. I stayed in an onsen. Onsen is one of my favorite things to do. Have you ever been in a onsen? Has anybody that's viewing ever been in an onsen? Then comment below, please let me know what you think. But I absolutely love onsen, and sometimes when I like recommend onsen to some of my friends that are visiting Japan, I explain to them that they have to like go naked in front of other people, and they're like, no, I'm not doing that. But then I usually convince them to do it, and they come back loving it, you know, absolutely, totally loving it. It's just one of these things where you have a really, even though it's summer and it's really hot, you have a hot bath, and you can actually chill, you know, relax, and it's a great way to end the day. I think it's a really, really good way to end the day. So onsen, yeah. And Matsuyama has a really famous onsen called Dogo Onsen. Dogo Onsen, I think it's called, yeah. And I was staying in an onsen hotel that was quite close, like really close, maybe 50 meters, 60 meters away from Dogo Onsen. So that was pretty neat, I think, really, really, really neat. And I actually went to Dogo Onsen, which is one of the oldest onsens in Japan, if not the oldest onsen in Japan, which was, I mean, I read like all these guides about like being that it was going to be packed, that I wasn't going to like it, that it was going to be horrible experience, etc., etc., etc. But I don't know why. Maybe it was because I paid for like a slightly more superior onsen in Dogo Onsen, but there was no one there for the first 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and then this family This like they were like it was two brothers and their children and their kids came into the onsen, and they were from Tokyo, and they were really 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 nice. We started chatting and talking about like where we were from and where I'd visited, and they were like all like, "Hey, like you've traveled around Japan so much, you know, it's crazy." But Dogo Onsen was really cool, and Matsuyama itself. And Matsuyama is the biggest city in Shikoku, so I was expecting it to be like a city, obviously. But Matsuyama itself was pretty nice. Also, there's these like indoor like arcade street type things where you can literally walk inside and eat inside and shop inside without having to do anything. But yeah, Matsuyama, totally recommend that city. It's got a tram system, which is incredibly useful to travel around. I love trams. Actually, Nagasaki in in Kyushu. I'll talk about that another time. But Nagasaki in Kyushu has a tram system, and it's one of my favorite cities. I think in Japan. I really like the tram. It's really to get along, you know, from one place to another, to get around, and Matsuyama. I wish I would have stayed there a little bit longer, actually, to be honest. Maybe one more night so that I could have explored a little bit more. There was a castle there, Matsuyama Castle, and Matsuyama Castle, again, I don't want to spoil too much because I'll be releasing a video soon, was pretty nice also, but not my favorite. Not my favorite castle at all, I'd say. Um, and then after that, I went to where did I go? Takamatsu, and again Takamatsu, kind of like a small town sort of village, but it has this amazing garden, really really incredible gardens that really blew me away. Really really picturesque and beautiful and perfect, you know, in that kind of perfect Japanese garden type thing. I did a live video there, so if you haven't done that, or if you haven't seen it, then you might want to. Can I add a card? Ooh, add a card to a. I'm learning how to use this. So yeah, hey, if you're joining me, I'm talking about like traveling around Japan, Shikoku, some of the places I've been to, traveling off the beaten path, that kind of thing. I'm mainly talking about Shikoku in this trip. If you've been to Shikoku, then let me know what you think. What were your experiences? But yeah, seafood, udon. I ate lots of udon. I'm not at all an udon fan. I've decided that I don't like udon too much. So please don't hate me for that. I've had udon in other places that I think I preferred to the udon that I had in Takamatsu. It was just really, really, really like, I don't know, the texture. It was chewy and sort of, I don't know, not my cup of tea. Anyway, the broth was okay. The broth was nice. Just the actual noodle was so thick. It was just hard for me to eat, you know. So, and I think I've had udon like in like Takamatsu or where have I been? Matsumoto. I think I've had udon in those places, but I didn't like the udon from Shikoku. So please don't kill me if you're from Shikoku, but I wasn't a big fan. I do, however, like other noodles, you know, in Japan, but I decided to keep away from udon after trying it. It was just too much for me. I then went to Korea, but I'll talk about that, and I'll do a whole set of Korea videos in a playlist in the future. Obviously, nothing to talk about now, you know. But yeah, last year I traveled around Hokkaido. I'd like to do like a little chat about Hokkaido in the future. I traveled around and I cycled around Hokkaido, and I did onsen in Hokkaido, and I then traveled all the way down to Tokyo with the bullet train. which is pretty cool. Um, Hokkaido just again is, I mean, it's just beautiful, you know, the lavender fields and all that kind of thing. So Hokkaido maybe one of my favorite. It's so hard to choose, but maybe one of my favorite places to visit in Japan. Um, Maybe not if you're like a first time Japan traveler, because I feel like Hokkaido is kind of like its own entity. But anyway, I'm talking about Hokkaido, and I'd like to talk about that in the future. Traveling, actually, some of the things that I found surprising about traveling through Shikoku were definitely, I thought that the train network was going to be better. I thought the rail network was going to be better, and it wasn't. I was sort of prepared for that because I knew that it was going to take a long time to get from one place to another. But what I wasn't expecting was how difficult. Not it wasn't difficult, but how difficult it was going to be to get a train from Kyoto to Tokushima. It was going to take a long time, and the Shinkansen only traveled certain amount of to a certain point. So I decided to get the bus because the bus was more direct. I wouldn't have to change, and it took more or less the same time or less time than going via Shinkansen. So I ended up getting a train from Kyoto really early in the morning, going to the wrong train station. Sorry, wrong bus station. Nearly missing my bus, but anyway, I made it. I made it to Shikoku on bus, and the bus was really nice and comfortable. And I was really worried because I get a little bit car sick, especially when I'm sitting at the back, and I was put at the very back of the bus. But I was fine. It was fine. It was really cool. I was very lucky that we drove over the bridges into Shikoku, and I could see the Naruto I think it's called, the Naruto whirlpools there. That was very lucky apparently. Even the bus driver said it, you know. And then I was picked up by my friend in Tokushima. Yeah, I hadn't seen her in a long time, quite a few years. So it was really nice to catch up and meet her family properly, and you know, see her son. Last time I saw her son must have been, I don't know, 6 or 7, I don't know, or less maybe, and he is now 15. So it was quite cool to see that change, you know. But other things that I noticed in Shikoku was there was a flooding earlier on in at the end of June or the beginning of July. There was some flooding, and it meant that parts of the tracks were not operating. So I had to get a bus service that was actually put there by the train like operator. So it wasn't too bad, but I honestly didn't think that the flooding had affected so much, you know, those rail areas. Hey, welcome. I'm talking about like traveling around and like how there was a flood earlier in the year, and how it affected my travels in Shikoku. But it didn't affect it too much, to be honest. It wasn't a deal breaker. It just added like maybe 15 or 20 minutes, half an hour max, to my travels, especially on the way to Matsuyama, and then from Matsuyama to Takamatsu. Those routes, I think I had a slight problem where I had to like get on a bus for like maybe an hour, or from the maybe 2.5 hour journey. Um, but it wasn't too bad. Like I said, the buses are quite comfortable in Japan. Um, but it was quite nice because it meant that I got to see some things that I'm sure I wouldn't have seen if I was traveling by train, because I think trains tend to go through tunnels a lot more, and the buses can travel, you know, outside. But what else did I notice about Shikoku? I liked Kochi, or Koshi, I don't know how you say Kochi, because it was near, I think it was near the sea. My hotel was very close to like a river, and the guy that was by the hotel Well, he gave me a brochure which I have to have somewhere. I don't know. I have to dig it out somewhere. But he was like the animated person from the like Visit Koshi brochure was based on him. So he was really really proud. The hotel guy. He was really really friendly. Also, I was looking for a laundrette, and that hotel didn't have a laundrette. And basically, he walked me to the laundrette, and then I was really embarrassed because I forgot my money. So I ended up having to go back, get my money, to then go back to the laundrette, which I knew where it was by then because the guy showed me. And the first thing he said is, like when I checked in, he's like, "I'm a Christian. Are you a Christian?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." But it was kind of strange, that kind of thing. I don't know why he asked that. I think maybe because Japan isn't a very Christian place, and he saw me and he might have been a little bit excited. Um, I don't know, but yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, if you have any questions, please type them. Say something, please. I need questions. Have you been to Shikoku? Are you thinking of going to Shikoku? Have you traveled anywhere around Japan where you think I might have been, or anywhere that you recommend that I go? Definitely Shikoku is somewhere that I want to go, I want to return to. I think Shikoku is very, very mountainous, and it's very famous for like a trail of shrines and temples. And I think I went to the second or the third one. My friend took me to the second or the third temple, which was which was quite nice. And the priests, do you call it a Buddhist priest? Yeah, was blessing a car actually, or blessing, was it a car, a lorry, or a van or something like that, which was quite cool. And it was really ridiculously hot. Um, so temples are pretty cool, especially up in the mountains, especially in places where there's less people. I think I really suggest that you travel and check out some of those temples and shrines. Shrines, I prefer shrines to temples. I think they're a little bit more. I don't know. I can reflect on things and the nature aspects of shrines, and it's kind of cool to try to guess what animal the shrine is sort of dedicated to. Um, but yeah, so at the end of the day, I recommend, obviously, if you haven't been to Japan, then it's worth going to the basics places, like Tokyo, Kyoto, Hiroshima, Nara, Osaka, that kind of thing. If you have been to Japan, then if you do return, then definitely check out Hokkaido, check out Shikoku, check out Kyushu. I'll be talking about those places separately in separate videos, because those places are pretty worth checking out or going to. And also, I'd suggest, like, just if you are in Tokyo, why not take a day trip somewhere which might be less known, or less visited, because you might be surprised. I think people tend to be quite welcoming in these places. So yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say, really. Like I was saying before, please don't forget that if you're interested, you can always check out my channel, and my channel Ninja Monkey. If you are not subscribed, then please do so. And there you go. And I've got quite a few videos on there, from all the way from the Kotohira, which is climbing up to the top, Kochi, which was pretty nice because I really loved the castle there. The BTS one is in Spanish and it's completely random, so you can skip that one if you're not interested in BTS or speak Spanish, but it does have subtitles, I believe. Then like Kyoto, Himeji, and all sorts of random things. So please check them out, because the live ones are a little bit like just fillers, which you might be interested in because they're not edited whatsoever. So it is what you see is what you get. Basically, I have some Pokemon content also, which you might be interested in. And apart from that, let me just get rid of the YouTube there. Apart from that, there are some random things. I live in Gibraltar, which is on the very south tip of Spain. It's a British overseas territory, and I also try to cover things to do with the place where I live. So I always enjoy reading your comments. And let's see, what's the Matsuri festival? I've got a question. The Matsuri festival was actually, let me just get, I need to charge my laptop before it goes. So one moment. I am here. Hopefully I can charge this. Is it charging? Yeah. Okay, so the Matsuri festival was basically, I was very lucky. My friend, who is Japanese and lives in Shikoku in Tokushima, she said to me whether I wanted to go to like a local like blessing Matsuri festival. And a Matsuri festival is kind of like a blessing. They take a shrine from one place to the other and they bless each thing. And in this case, they were going from fisherman like house to fisherman house, and everybody was carrying this shrine, omikoshi shrine, really, really, really heavy, and carrying it from one place to another. And at the same time, drinking sake. They would just pour sake down your throat and throw water at you. It was lots of fun. And then when you actually arrive at the house or the building or wherever they're blessing, the Buddhist priest, I guess, or the Shinto priest would bless the place. Then they would offer like rice and sake. They would pour sake over the shrine and rice over the shrine. And I think you can see part of that in my video, that actually happening. And then they would carry it to the next place and do the same thing. And that's basically what the Matsuri festival was. In this case, I think it was also for prayers for like for good fishing. They want me to go back next year. Apparently it's a 3-day event. I seriously don't know if I could last 3 minutes. Honestly, sorry. So yeah, so basically that was a Matsuri festival, and it was probably one of the best experiences that I've had in Japan, for sure. One of the best experiences that I've had in Japan. It was very, very, very local, very authentic, and I feel very privileged that I was able to take part, because I don't think like your typical tourists would be able to do that. Yeah, there are many kinds of Matsuri festivals. Well, Matsuri just is festival. I think in Japanese, a Matsuri is just festival. So I'm not an expert, but I think that there might be different offerings or different things that happen. There might be like a dance Matsuri perhaps, or a Matsuri. Yeah, I guess so. Different kinds of festivals depending on what you're doing, is my guess. Anyway, but actually that point that I made before about traveling to the less visited places in Japan, I think that if you travel to the less visited places in Japan, you're more likely to have these things happen to you. You're more likely to have like people invite you into their homes or invite you to participate in something traditional or like a Matsuri, where maybe if you were in a really, really big city full of tourists, people would see the tourists differently. I think people start seeing the tourists maybe as an annoyance, or maybe they start seeing the tourists as a business where they try to sell things to them, and they try to sell experiences. So I know that in I've seen in Kyoto and in other places where they do all this, like learn how to make tea, or learn how to make udon, or learn how to make ramen, or you know, and all those things are pretty cool, but they're obviously very commercial. No, they're there to make money. But I think if you go to a place where it isn't very touristy, you're more likely to walk by maybe a farm, and for the farmer to give you an orange and say, hey, taste this, or for you to actually participate in something like I did. Obviously, I was very lucky because my friend knew the people from that village, but I'm sure that it's also a little bit of both things, of traveling to a less traveled area, and not traveling in a really really crazy and populated area. I went to a matsuri in Osaka, and it was just so many people, like thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So I guess it would be quite difficult. There is a difference between a tourist and a wanderer. It is possible to solo. Is it possible to solo travel? Well, I solo travel, so I consider myself a tourist, definitely, because I'm touring. I go to the country to tour the country, to see the country. But I travel on my own, and I guess I am also a wanderer. So it means that when I do travel, I do try, if I see something interesting, I wander in that direction. I guess solo traveling is something that once you get into the habit of doing, it's you won't look back. You'll just want to do it again. It's worth traveling with people also, because you end up having experiences that you can share and talk about in the future. But I can tell you for sure that every time that I've gone to like a Japanese bar, an izakaya, and I've had a drink and I've ordered a drink on my own, it's very, very, very highly likely that somebody, or the bartender, or the person that's next to you or sitting near you, will ask you where you're from and spark a conversation. Whilst if you are with a group of people, that's less likely. That's probably might not even happen. Um, I've traveled with friends, and I've traveled with groups, and I've traveled on my own. And whenever I'm on my own, I definitely interact a lot more with people. And a tip that I'm going to give you is, if you if you take a postcard of where you come from, and you take quite a few, maybe 20 postcards with you, and you sit in a bar, and you just give the postcard to the barman, the bartender, then that will definitely create like a speaking point, a talking point, and he'll ask you where you're from, and he'll be really really grateful. And usually they like show all the other customers, like, hey, look what I've got a postcard from Gibraltar. And then from there they might bring out Google and search where you're from, and the conversation will get started. It's definitely a tip that works for me anyway, just showing them the postcard, and then you give them the postcard, and many times they hang it up in the bar somewhere, and it's there forever. I don't know, or maybe for a while, or maybe they throw it away after you leave. I don't know, but yeah, you can definitely solo travel around Japan. It's very easy to solo travel around Japan. The train network is pretty easy to use. The also If you get the JR, the Japan Rail Pass, it's really easy to be flexible. You don't have to keep to a specific itinerary. Depends what kind of traveler you are. You can stay in hostels or in hotels. I always stay in hotels. I've never stayed in a hostel. If you plan ahead in advance, then you'll be able to probably find cheap hotels for sure. So yeah, I'd say solo travel. I mean, I did Hokkaido on my own. I've done Shikoku on my own now, and I do it again. In fact, I want to do it again. I think I want to go back to Hokkaido and and explore some of the different places. And a lot of people will say to you, you need a car for some of these places, and I'd say, yeah, I think a car will be easier, but it's not impossible. And if you're going to go to Hokkaido or Shikoku without a car, then you need to be very prepared and plan your routes and plan what you're going to do. And it might mean staying a little bit longer so that you can visit a place and spend the night there and move on. So yeah, it's definitely possible to solo travel. And Japan is obviously, if you have a good head on your shoulders and you take care of yourself, Japan is a very safe, very very safe place. Obviously, there are bad people everywhere around the world, but I've always felt very safe in Japan. And you just use your common sense. Whenever I've been walking around Tokyo at night, then I will if I see a street that I'm not happy with, I will walk on another street. That's a good idea. Postcards, the Shikoku pilgrimage. Maybe walk along the roads and hitchhike. Okay, hitchhiking is something that I've never, well, kind of never done, but that's for another video. Hitchhiking in Japan, I don't think it's something that I will do. Thankfully, I have the means to save up during the year so that I don't have to hitchhike. And the Shikoku pilgrimage sounds amazing, and I did some of the videos that are going to appear on my channel for some of the Shikoku pilgrim shrine spots. I traveled to a few of them. You can maybe see some of the photos in Instagram where I didn't make a video because it was just a shrine and I just didn't make a video. But I know that a lot of people do the Shikoku pilgrimage where they walk from one shrine to the other, and definitely it's something that I probably wouldn't do in the summer because it's so hot in the summer. But I know that people do it. I saw people doing it. The Kotohira shrine, I believe, is one of the Shikoku pilgrimage, if not the most important one. Perhaps I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, the Kotohira shrine that I went to was definitely something that people visit when they do the Shikoku pilgrimage. And actually, something that I do, which I like to do, it's a lightweight, easy souvenir for a place that you visit, and that is, I've got it here in a bag, and that is, I get these pins. Each pin, can you see? Each pin here is a pin of a place that I visited. So I have some shrines, Mount Fuji here. I have Japan, flag of Japan. I have Yakushima. I went to Italy. I've got Sendai. I've got, I think that was Furano in Hokkaido. Some castles. So it's just a really light, really easy sort of souvenir that I bring back for myself, because it's impossible, I think, if you travel like I do to so many different places, maybe every other day or every day a different place. Can you imagine bringing back an item of food or bringing back a souvenir from that place? You just don't have space. So I found that pins are the best thing to do, and they're pretty cool, except for when you can't find it and then you just want to cry. Or when you forget, which I tend to do. Sometimes I'm like vlogging and I have my camera here. Sometimes I'm vlogging and I'm just going with the flow and experiencing the place, and I just forget to buy my pin. It's happened a few times, but I just see it as a excuse to go back, which I will definitely go back to some of these places. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end the live stream soon. If you have any more questions, then just let me know. And if you are watching this stream later, like at a future date, then don't forget to write a comment so I can answer your questions below. And don't forget that you can look at some of the videos that I've already posted and some of the videos that I will be posting in the future, because I think Shikoku is somewhere that is worth visiting, definitely worth visiting. So I think, as there are no more questions, I'm going to end this here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video. In fact, if you haven't liked the video, then like it now, please. Oh, do Japanese people like random gifts, like traditional bookmarks, or small things like that? Okay, we'll end with that question. Do Japanese people like random gifts? I think I think everybody likes gifts. And I think that they like gifts from where you come from. So I mean, even a postcard can be a nice gift or miyage from the place that you live. But I've taken all sorts of things. I've taken food items from where I live. I've taken, if you know that you're going to visit someone, a specific person, then I've taken aprons. I've taken hand towels from Gibraltar. I've taken some plushies, but like Gibraltar plushies, and given them to specific people. So I stayed in Japan. I stayed in Koya-san, which is a like a temple, and I stayed with the monks. So I didn't give them a postcard. I gave them something a little bit more, a little bit more special. So definitely, I mean, postcards I found is the easiest thing to take with you. It takes very little space, but maybe a pin from where you live or a sticker from where you live. But definitely, if you have a few gifts at hand, they're really, really, really going to appreciate it, especially if somebody does something nice for you, or you go to a nice hotel or ryokan, a traditional ryokan with a family. If you know beforehand that that family has children, then maybe you can buy some candy from where you live and give it to them. I've usually ryokans are family owned, so if you do stay in a ryokan, the likelihood is that there might be children around, and you can give it to the owners to give to the children, and that's like bonus points, I think. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. I'm gonna sign off because I need to eat something. It's 10 to 9. Just one last question. Last minute videos, where are you from anyway? Where are you from? Last minute videos. And what time is it there? I'm just wondering, as out of curiosity. Maybe not. Odisha. Where's Odisha? I'm gonna have to figure out where Odisha is. Where is Odisha? Oh wow, in India. No, not India. It's the state of India. Wow, awesome. Wow. Really, really cool. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. And if you liked this live stream and you haven't already checked out my channel, then please do so. Until then, see you. Bye. How do I stop this? Stop.